Welcome back. Welcome back. Today, you're watching the podcast, The Life in the Mirror, and I want to thank you for taking your busy time to watch this video. Today's topic is going to be about leaving the church when hurt. Leaving the church when hurt. Have you noticed it is so easy to leave the church when you've been hurt inside of the church? And you realize I said inside the church. The church itself didn't hurt you, but the people inside of the church hurt you. Say, for example, it can be a family member, it can be a friend, it can be a pastor, it can be an elder, a deacon, whoever the person was. It can also be a group, but whoever the person was hurt you inside of the church. And some people, it's so easy to leave the church. Now, this topic I can definitely relate to. Now, growing up, my father was a pastor, and I've been inside of the church. I grew up in the church. I mean, from a baby to now, I grew up in the church. Now, while I was in the church, especially when I was younger, I witnessed a lot of things. I seen a lot of things. Say for example, you go to a church meeting and you just see how people act in a church meeting. It can be that same person while we in a church service, they say that powerful prayer, and then when we get to the church meeting, they act a certain different way. The same person. Now, growing up as a preacher's kid, you just see many of things. You can see how people really act. Now, I witnessed my father being heard, being voted out of the church. We was at a business meeting. I'm sitting there, thinking about 18, 19, and I witnessed my dad getting voted out of church. Now, for me, that rubbed me the wrong way. I mean, to witness my father, who I grew up with, being voted right in front of my eyes, that just did something to me. So for me, I was like, this is a man of God, and you vote the man of God out of church like that. So I was like, you know what? I'm no longer going to go to the church. I left the church. But again, the church didn't hurt me. Now, it was some group of people, it rubbed me the wrong way, watching them and hurt me. That's what hurt me, left the church. Now, for a long period of time, I didn't go back to the church. I mean, yes, I did my occasions, Easter Sunday, Mother's Day, stuff like that. I went back for those. I went to the church for those. But out of that, I wanted nothing to do with church. I was like, church folks ain't right. I can't deal with this. Now the crazy thing about this situation, when I met my wife, she looked at me and she said, Rocco, if you want to be with me, you got to get back in church. And I looked at her, I said, do you understand what I went through and what I witnessed at church? I was like, church folks ain't right. You want me to get back at church, and church folks say, "Why? Right." And she's like, Rocco, if you want to be with me, you got to get back. You got to go back to church. And I was like, man. So that following next Sunday, I was sitting in the back row at church, thinking about all the things that I witnessed, all the things that I went through. I was sitting there thinking about that. But all I know, I was back at the church. See, my God used my wife to get me back. That's all he needed, was to get me back in the church, to be sitting, even if I was sitting in the back row and as soon as church was over, I left. But he needed me to get back. Now, this situation, church, some of the people in the church hurt me, made me leave the church. Now, the crazy thing about this situation, some of the people in the church saved me and made me come back to God. That's a crazy situation. Some of the people hurt me, made me leave. And some of the people who came to me and prayed for me and just helped me, understand the Bible and study with me, was the same people who brought me back to the church and God. Now, like I said, I can relate to that, being hurt inside the church and then leaving. But one thing about this situation, I also understand coming back to the church. I was watching this video, Pastor Wood, Bishop Wooden. He said, he's like, the crazy thing about this, he's like, people could get hurt in the mall. Somebody could hurt them in the mall, but they'll come back to the mall. Somebody will get hurt at school, high school, college, whatever, but they'll come back to the school. They'll go back to the school. You're in a relationship, you're in a marriage, you're girlfriend, boyfriend, get hurt, but they'll go back to the person. But in church, they want to leave and won't want to come back. Again, in this situation, one thing you got to understand: people, especially you out in the world and you watching this video, people in the church are human. We go through the same, you're a Christian, whatever. We go through the same emotions that the people in the world. We deal with the exact same things the people in the world deal with. We are humans. But like me, when you get hurt, now you got to realize it wasn't the church itself that hurt you. It wasn't the God that hurt you. Now it was the people who you thinking they supposed to be godly and act Christ-like. Like I'm saying, if this is how church folks are, again, I can relate to it. If this is how church folks are, I don't want nothing to do with this. But in this situation, you have to understand. And I'm very thankful that my wife told me to get back to church. Because if I didn't get back, I wouldn't be the man who I am today. I wouldn't be doing the things that I was supposed to do. Because out in the world, it was sometimes just total chaos. Now, even that I'm back in church, sometimes the life is chaos, but I have peace in the midst of the storm. Now, I understand why it's so easy to leave church. I get that. I've been there. I've witnessed this. I see many of things, and sometimes church people, sometimes they're not right, and sometimes they're not acting Christ like how Jesus was acting. But do not allow certain people in church stop you from going to church. Don't allow people to stop you from God. Again, like I said, I can relate to this topic. I've been there and I've seen it. And I'm very thankful, like I said before, I had a wife to tell me to get back in church, because once I got back, that was God's opportunity to start working back on me and get me to where I need to be. And people out there, if you're watching this video, I just want to thank you for taking your time to watch this video. Thank you for listening to me in this situation. And I just want to thank you, and God bless.